Mission was great. My name is Bill Gardner, and I'm going to be introducing Justin, which is an honor for me because Justin and I have now known each other for multiple years. And just by a show of hands, how many of you have heard Justin speak before? Okay, because there are so many hands in here, I want you to know that that is a testament to just how strong his presentation is. Outside of being a incredibly strong designer, I need to share a little bit about Justin. Some things that I know. First of all, Justin is an amazing storyteller. And he has carried that idea of storytelling forward into the business that he does. And because he is so focused on mission-driven projects, and you may have known him from projects like, how many of you are familiar with Wheels for Water? Yep. Pretty amazing project that actually ended up taking him to the White House and a little side meeting with President Obama, and he's well to be congratulated on that. But Justin has also been responsible for an amazing group of work for both UNICEF, Team Red, White, and Blue, Susan Cain, who you saw this morning, helping her with her work for Quiet Revolution, Allstate Foundation, and recently just re-identified the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So one of the things that you need to know is that typically when you hear Justin talk, you have a little bit of Kleenex in your pocket. Put the Kleenex away. Justin promises not to let anybody cry today. We want you to hear some of the stories. We want you to be affected by them, but I want you to watch them with really clear eyes. Would you please give a really amazing welcome for my good friend, Justin Ahrens.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. This is awesome. So can I do something really quick? You can't stop me anyway, so I'm going to do it. My mom has no idea what I do, so I tell her I talk to people, and she's like, oh, that's nice, dear. 10 people? I'm like, no, a few more. So you mind if you just wave to my mom really quick? All right. There you go, Mom. I actually do this. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. So, hey, good afternoon. Thanks for coming to what I traditionally call the nap hour, right? So I really thank you for coming here. Bill, who is a good friend of mine, will be sleeping in about a minute. So I'm going to do my best to keep the rest of you awake. So thank you again. But for those of you who have seen me before, thank you for coming back. For those who haven't, I'm just really honored to be here today. You know, typically I give talks about design for good and doing things kind of bigger than yourself and the value of that. And last year I talked about that, but also what's more important, your culture, your creative. And in doing that, I started discovering a lot of sort of narratives that appeared. And those narratives often have to do with some of the struggle and some of the things that we don't talk about at conferences like this. And so I want to be your guide today and kind of walk you through that. But in order to do that, I think I have to also be transparent with you and who I am. So I own a design firm, a branding firm, mid-sized firm outside Chicago. We're about 40 miles west of the city. We live in our, feels like I live there. But our office is in this old 108-year-old farmhouse. And I show you all this because this is where we do our thing, right? But I'm also, and this is the thing I'm most proud of, is my wife is still married to me after 20 plus years, which is a miracle. And I have four, thank you, Bill. And I have four amazing kids that are all in, different stages of life. And those often beautiful kids of mine are the ones that make me want to go to therapy, but I'm doing my best. So I share that with you just to kind of tell you where my foundation is. But also I have worked as a freelancer. I've worked in-house. I've worked for large organizations. And thankfully, for the last 18 years, Rule 29 has still been in business. So when we often think about therapy, for example, this is one of my favorite Jimmy Fallon quotes. I feel like this. And I'm going to break a little rules here because I realized that when I did this, I thought the screens were going to be bigger. But basically he says, I don't do therapy because sometimes, some crazy stuff will come up and I'll be like, wait, what? And I think that the reason I love that is because I think that in our profession, we just don't talk about certain things that are all really present. And what I mean by that is when you go to the How conference, or any conference for that matter, you want to go there to be inspired, right? You want to go and, learn new things, be better at your job. But more times than not, I'll be sitting at dinner later or over a drink, which is some of the best parts of being at a conference, and you're talking to your friends, and you start talking about the real stuff, right? And there's a lot of times I'll go to a conference and I'll be in the plane, I'll feel inspired, and that starts to wear off, and then I kind of get discouraged. I get discouraged because I'm like, I don't know if I could do that kind of work, or if I ever have an opportunity to do that kind of work, or I don't work at a place that does that sort of thing, and then I kind of get bummed out. And you guys ever feel that way? All right, great. Then we're going to be brave. We're going to do a little audience participation. The worst thing I'm going to do is have you raise your hand. So if you want to do that, that would be awesome. But yeah, that's what happens. And I think that also, as we kind of get into this, and I just want to set some things up that I really believe. For the record, this is not going to be a gripe session. I'm not going to complain about clients. I don't want you to leave here negative. I really want to just kind of focus on some of the things that we don't take the time to talk about that we all know is present. Fair? Great. And the first thing I want to talk about is this. We're ultimately a service business, right? We do our work for our clients. If we don't have clients or customers, then we don't do our work. And I think a lot of times we look and we sort of villainize them, or, it's kind of their fault that, work's not going through, or whatever the problem is. We often kind of blame them for that. I think that's such a bummer, because really it's an opportunity for you to look at yourself and look at your process and look at your culture and see what you can do to tweak that and advance that and make that better and really enjoy your job. Because I honestly believe with all of my heart, this is like the greatest profession to be in. Like I said, I was kind of joking earlier about my mom, and I've said this in the past, but I tell you, my mom really believes I color and get paid for it, which is cool. I want her to keep believing that. But that's what she thinks that we do, because she sees my joy in what we do, right? And so one more little point here I want to make when we talk about the posture of today. I want to talk about the difference between psychology and positive psychology. And I want to admit something right now. I'm a neophyte on this. I'm not an expert on this. I'm obviously not an official therapist, but psychology, as we probably most know, it's the study of dysfunction or mental illness and kind of how to put parameters and things in to cope with that. Where positive psychology is a relatively new era or a new study. It's like early 80s is kind of where its roots come from. And it's from a 30,000 point of view, it's really the study of what makes you happy, right? They spent years studying people that seem to have it all together, and they started putting together and mapping traits and values that are present. And I share this with you because that's really kind of the space I want to be in. And I think that's the space we ultimately want to be in, right? We want to enjoy our day. We want to enjoy our work. We want to enjoy our culture and all that sort of thing. And often, now this is where you need to be honest with yourself, often it starts with how you approach that moment, that circumstance, or what you're doing. I'm going to say that again. It's often the way you are, your position, the way you look at it. And I think that's really important. As a little side shout out, the reason I started getting into this concept is we helped start an organization called the Positivity Project. It's based on positive psychology. And I share this with you only because I want to also promote them. What they do is they go into middle school and junior highs, and they have a curriculum for school systems on how to teach kids the concept of other people matter. Positive psychology is based on 24 values, character strengths, and those are strengths like kindness, humor, curiosity, creativity, fairness, leadership. The reason why I think this is so important, especially when it comes to understanding yourself, is that unlike our height, weight, skin color, things that are visual, values and character strengths are sort of naked to the eye. So it's really important for you, in my opinion, to study what are the things that make you tick to understand how other people tick. I loved Barbara Bush, and I was really sad, all the stuff that happened. But this is a quote that she did that really kind of sums up everything I just said. I could have just put this up there for you better. And I'll read this to you just for those who can't see it in the back. Never lose sight of the fact that the most important yardstick of your success will be how you treat other people, your family, friends, and coworkers, and even strangers you meet along the way. It's so true. One last point I want to talk about is this concept of phenomena versus realities, okay? And what I'm talking about here is, again, when I was talking earlier about how you'll be at a restaurant later or at a meeting and you'll be talking about stuff, I'll often overhear people talking about a circumstance at work. And they'll talk about it along the lines of that's a phenomena, meaning it's like something doesn't happen very often. And as I kind of listen to them, they start telling a different story, and it's actually a reality. It actually happens all the time, but they don't realize it. And often it's because they don't realize that, quite honestly, they could be the problem, right? They keep going back to the same way of handling something, okay? So as your guide today, I'm going to share with you some things that we've been working at Rule 29, some things we don't totally have figured out, but I'm hoping that today you will get some stuff to be like, yeah, I see that, or yeah, I think that, and some ways to maybe approach things a little differently. My favorite leadership quote is by Max Dupree. He was a past Herman Miller CEO, and he says, the first responsibility of the leader is to define reality. And I think that's so incredibly important, especially when it comes to working with clients or working with your team, right? Or even talking about your work. I had an idea a couple years ago that I wanted to do a talk, where I just showed our worst work. And I came up here, and I just was selling it. I'm like, guys, isn't this great? And I showed you this terrible work, and I never got a character. And then my team goes, but they might think you're serious. They might not get the joke. And I'm like, I think it'd be great. We'll just try it, see what happens. And then I realized that maybe some of my clients think the work that we did for them was really great, and I would offend them, and they'd actually watch it. So I didn't do that. But I'm going to show you a little bit, and we're going to call it the ugly work syndrome. And what I mean by that is, when you come to a conference like this, you're getting a social media version of someone's life, right? You're seeing the best stuff. At your agency or internally or even as a freelancer, you only show the things that you want people to hire you for, right? The great stuff. If I was doing that, I would talk about Quiet. Had the opportunity to work with Susan Cain. That was awesome. We helped her launch her Quiet Revolution platform. Or last year, we worked and did the Make-A-Wish Foundation, rebranded them. One of my favorite projects in my career. It was awesome, right? And you might say, oh, wow, those guys do great work. At least I hope you would. But here's the reality. I was counting in the last 60 days, okay, we've done over 300 PowerPoint pages. Who here gets up and goes, yes, PowerPoint? Awesome, right? Or we've done 120 sell sheets in just the last 45 days, which I didn't know, by the way. I was like, oh, sorry, dude, right? Or the crowd favorite, templatized Word docs. I mean, come on, show of hands. Yes. Give me some of that. Or, you spend this time, you do this strategy, and you say, we're going to do this beautiful custom WordPress site. It's going to be incredible. And they're like, for $1,000, we can do a Squarespace site. Yeah, right? My favorite we've been doing lately, and actually it works, but I just want to show this for you, is we've been doing door hangers. Love the door hanger, by the way. But my point is, I'm being a little bit facetious, but whatever your thing is on that list, right, we all do that work. If you're in this room right now at the end of the talk and you don't do anything that doesn't blow, come talk to me because I want to work for you, okay? Just doesn't happen, guys, all right? We all do that kind of work, not purposely. I'm not saying mail it in. I'm not saying do a bad PowerPoint. No, of course, we want to do the best job we can, but I think, let's be honest, we all do this kind of work, okay? And I think it's just good for us to acknowledge it. I feel good about it, right? What I feel bad about is about what I'm about to show you, because I promise I want to be transparent with you. These are 3 projects I'll show you. So this is Green Key, Energy Wiz, and Team RWB. This is work that they gave us. Green Key was a digital company, and they really loved their logo as it was. The CEO did it. Best conversation ever, by the way. And we went through, guys, I don't know, 20 rounds, and we ended up coming up with this. Not my proudest moment, right? I've never shown anyone this. In fact, they don't even use it anymore, so I'm feeling really good about it. Or Energy Wiz. It's actually a really cool concept. It's a new sort of workout for young kids where it's all interactive and it both stimulates their mind but also physical activity. It's actually a brilliant idea. We worked for months to try to get them to change the name and not do that logo. And so this is as far as we could get. Yeah, hire me. Yeah. And then Team Red, White, and Blue. I actually love these guys. If they see this, this is not a diss on you guys, but this is something they loved. It's Team Red, White, and Blue is the fastest growing veterans organization in the country. And their whole point here was, Uncle Sam strapping his running shoes on and go run and, kind of be physically fit. And kind of the serious side is be physically fit to reduce depression and, PTSD. So that's all serious stuff. But they wanted to use this on everything. And they couldn't get through their mind that it wasn't a vector piece of art. They're like, couldn't you just make this a logo? And I was like, God, no. But I realized that they were going to use it regardless. And so I was actually, if I was to be really transparent, which I'm going to be, I was whining about this actually a year ago at the Howe Conference. And for those of you who know Von Glitchko, he's like, oh, quit whining, I'll make you something. So he made this. And that's way better than that. But you don't know this, but this has nothing, this isn't aligned with the brand guidelines at all, right? So it's not my favorite moment, although I like it better than what we had. We all do this, okay? Or we do ugly work in the sense of how we approach it. So I went to a small school in Illinois called Illinois Wesleyan University. And this was our mascot, Tommy the Titan. It's a funny name, by the way. Anyways, my old boy Tommy was going to be redesigned, I heard through the grapevine. And I've been trying to get to work with Wesleyan forever. I'm thinking, man, I'm an alum, kind of known for branding. Like, if this is happening, I would assume this would be a layup. So I ended up kind of getting a meeting, and the guy's like, yeah, come down. And so, man, I spent 2 weeks. I did research. I looked at the conferences. I looked at trends and logos. I had this whole thing, and I was like, I am going to rock this thing. I'm going to just kill it, right? So I kind of walk in there. I probably even had a strut. I'm like, this is my thing. And I get all ready, and I was like, hey, do you want to start first? Do you want me to start first, I'm actually much more cool than I am on the stage right now. I was just like, would you like to hear our portfolio? No. Anyway, so he goes, hey, before you start with whatever you're going to show me, and he slides over a piece of paper. What do you think of our new logo? And I was like, you effing kidding me? I drove 2.5 hours to see that you already awarded the project. Oh, my goodness. And so I was at the point, I was trying to backpedal. I was trying to be like, just chill out. Don't lose your mind. And I had all these really wonderful things going through my head. And I was like, why am I here? And he's like, oh, no, I just wanted you to comment on this logo and art direct the designer that we hired. And I'm like, well, that's a terrible idea, right? That's not cool for them. You hired them. You talked to them. You give them direction, right? So I was there, so I showed him like 6 or 7 pages of my deck, and I was like, here's what we would have done, douchebag. And, I probably did say that under my breath. Whatever. Good luck, woo, Tommy. And so he actually called me back a couple weeks later and goes, hey, I would actually love the process that you talked about. Can we do it? And I was like, really? Well, yeah. And I missed a fatal step there I'd come back to in a second. And so I said, but I'm not sure you're ready to go through this process. So let me just kind of show you one idea based on some of the stuff I talked about. And so I actually worked with my buddy Vaughn again, and we kind of came up with this mark. We created a whole system for them, right, about, how it would translate to gear and signage, and we were trying to cast vision. I was telling him the story, and I was really trying to educate him on the process. And I even went back to this logo, and I said, hey, listen, there's some great things here. Here's some things we changed. Here's why we didn't just amend this, because that's not our work, and, blah, blah, blah. A month goes by. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so I write back. I'm like, hey, did you, think about what we said, where we're at, what's going on? He goes, oh, no, we're good. We already did our logo. Yeah. Anyways, that was awesome. So I tell you this because this is a Paul Rand quote that I actually think is too narrow, and it says, the public is more familiar with bad design than good design. And I don't know if that's true so much anymore, to be honest with you. I think there's no better time to be a designer than right now, right? People who never said brand or design or creative say it all the time. So, guys, it's great, I think, to be a creative. I think the challenge is, and what I think this statement is missing, is that our job is also to educate, right? I called that guy back after I drank a bottle of bourbon, and I said, hey, here's the deal. I'm happy that you're happy, but here's how the process is supposed to work. And I actually made a little PDF form. I actually should have thrown that up there. I said, here's how a workflow normally works. Here's what you should understand in this. Here's what we're trying to do for you as a firm. And my hope is the next agency, or the next people they work with, he'll understand it a little better. And that's what I think is the point here. I don't think we want to stop at this statement and be like, yeah, Paul Rand, F them. It's more of, you know what? That just means our job, if we really care about it and we're passionate about it, we put all our time into it. Because let's not forget, design is emotional, right? We create brands to what? Connect people. How do you connect people, right? With story, with empathy, right? With envisioning something that could be. So if we want that to keep happening, if we want that to evolve and develop, then we have to educate constantly, okay? And that gets into my next point, which is what I'm calling the clueless client. And I think I would have said this guy was a clueless client. But you know what? If I was, again, to be honest with you all, I missed an important step. I was so wanting to kill it, and my ego was so in the way that I forgot basic question asking. I forgot to share with them in advance what the process is. So he had no idea. So really, the jackass in the situation is me, which my wife reminded me of several times. Thank you, honey. So I want to share with you some sort of client terminology we use internally and see if any of these kind of ring a bell with you, okay? So this is what we're calling the good news but client, okay? The good news but client goes like this. Phone call or email. Rule 29, man, I loved your presentation, but, and you know what happens after that but. Something not awesome, right? We've all been there. Have you had that? Good news but client? I don't want to change the name because I just love saying good news but. It sounds weird. One of the things we do to counter that, right, is anytime we have that situation happen, we have what's called, we call a timeout, okay? And we just sit for a second. Before we respond, we just kind of talk if we can, or step back and take a breath. Because not all the time what comes after that but is a bad thing. But often if your posture is closed, right, and you're assuming it's going to be crappy, it's not going to be smooth. So the good news but client you have to prepare for. The next one is the never my fault client. Goes something like this. Yeah, I know that it was supposed to be due on Friday, but it's totally not my fault. My boss has been on vacation for like a year. And I'm like, oh yeah, if he's been on vacation for a year, when we talked about the schedule last week, you just forgot? He's like, no, it's not my fault. Never my fault client is one that I often have a problem with all the time. And it's because I believe that we should own our jobs, right? We should own what we're doing. And so the never my fault client, what we often do is early on in the process, is we work really hard to make sure that we outline expectations, right? Here's what we need you to do, and here's what we're going to do to make you look awesome. It only works if we do that together. The time bandit client, this is the one where time is really, it doesn't exist, right? It's due on Wednesday. We need your feedback. Friday comes along, and you email them, hey, Joe, how's it going? Vacation responder. And you're like, mother effer, right? Time bandit. So what we do with that, and I think one of the things I want you to hear me say here is a lot of these things that we're talking about can be tackled and reduced by process, right? And posture, how you approach it. So we spend a ton of time, more time than we should, working on schedule, right? And we say in really big, bright, bold letters, if you miss a day, it's 2 to 3 days on our end. Now, doesn't always work out the way you want it, but at least it establishes a conversation. So if you have to stick to the deadline, you at least have something to talk about next time. Hey, remember that big bold type we ignored? Yeah, we're not going to ignore it this time. The only child client. I'm taking a breath here. The only child client. So we have a client right now who's the only child client, and this is the client that is convinced that they have no other clients. You just work with them. So, you ask them, hey, give us all the feedback on the website, maybe in one email or Basecamp message. And then you get 52 emails, right? And it's this concept that, and this happens a lot internally, too. We work with a lot of internal creative teams. And it's just, hey, it'll be easy. And, and here's the thing. I love Slack. Slack's the worst. We do not allow clients to be on our Slack channel, because then it's like, man, shit's going down in another room, and you don't know what's happening, right? And it's just like, oh, I got a direct line to the team, right? So we set really important boundaries. And we say, hey, the reason we have a schedule, the reason we have this, the reason we have that is, although we are so grateful, I'm being serious, by the way, that we have the opportunity to work with you, you're not our only client. And I want to make sure that I give them as much time and that we're giving you. So let's honor this situation, right? This is the client that can't read. And I have to be honest here, I'm kind of a hypocrite. So I get a ton of email, and I'm on all the Basecamp chains, and I'm a skimmer. I read my client emails, but I don't always read my team emails. But the client that can't read this is what happens. You get an email back for them asking a question that you answered in the email before that they're already replying to you on, right? You know that client. Super fantastic. And it's really hard to not just forward that email to them again. FYI, read below, right? It's easy to do that because you're kind of like, F you. I got other stuff to do. But I think, again, it's that posture, right? It's that stepping back and saying, you know what, I can make this really bad. I can be really impatient. But also, you know what, they're super busy too. They're probably doing the best they can. You don't know what's going on with them. And I think we laugh and joke about it because I think we all feel that for a moment. It's really important to answer the right way, right? I didn't know what to draw here for the creeper. That wasn't weird. So I did the turtle. So the creeper is that client that you work with that the job just keeps getting bigger, bigger, and bigger, right? Hey, you just did 4 icons. Just do 5 more. Same price. It's easy, right? That's how it feels like. I'm being facetious, of course. But this is why, for all these clients, we lay a lot of these things out up front. And it's to have a foundation to have a conversation. And we're like, yeah, you know, all these things that we did, we spent a lot of time on it, and here's why we spent time on it, you know, and we'd be happy to do that for you for additional fee. And then the conversation, they're suddenly, oh, it costs more money. Well, we'll wait till next quarter, right? And this is the last one, and this is the you surrender client. This is my least favorite. And, of course, this is the client that breaks you, right? And I'm going to share with you a story that I'm not proud of. This is not a good moment, right? We worked with this furniture company, and we were so pumped. I worked on this account forever to get it. We finally landed it. We loved our client. He was amazing. And although it was a deadline, we hit it. We were just super pumped. I couldn't wait. We were going to be part of this new furniture line. It was just really awesome. And then our guy left. And I was like, oh, man, how's this going to work out? You know how that works out. If you own an agency, you work somewhere, if someone leaves, usually they bring their people in. And so we were kind of panicky. We spent all this time on it. And so the new guy was the worst case scenario. Everything that we had done, he hated. And we kept having meetings upon meetings, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And so I went on a couple trips, and I was coming back. I was super tired, and I had a bag on my back, and I was kind of walking through. And I was walking by my coworker's office, and I hear him on the phone say these exact words. Yeah, I hear you. But your tone is making me not very motivated to help you because you're a dick. It's probably a different way to handle that situation. So now we call it the dick call. Obviously, you don't want to get there, right? And it turns out that he just didn't really like the guy that left, right? And we were attached to that person, and so we kind of got all of that crap that was there, and we ended up finishing strong, and we sadly don't work together anymore. But what was really great, in fact, my team couldn't wait to tell that story, so thank you for laughing, because they're like, oh, it's a really funny story. I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of not great. But we sat down as a team and said, hey, how could we have avoided that? What could he have done? With all these examples, there's opportunities for you to advance, to become better, to learn, to put other processes in to make it better, right? Calling your client a dick is not one of them, just as a side note. And that's because customer service is not a department, it's everyone's job. If we're a service-oriented organization that, you know, whether you're a small firm, in-house, whatever, right? It's everyone's job. Internal client, external client. You know, if you want them to respect your design and what you're doing and have a great dialogue, you have to serve. It's just a reality. One side note, we had an intern a year ago, 2 years ago actually, and I didn't know this, but he was going to these meetings and writing down things that our clients said and started a Twitter feed. And I want to share with you. It's called Around R29, and these are things that we've heard our clients say. Don't mind me if I walk a little funny tomorrow. It's been a while. That's the key to success. Lower your standards a bit. That was from a CEO. This one I have to explain. Don't worry, my dad was a pecker too. I was hunting pecking, I guess is what you call it. I never learned how to officially type, and the head of marketing comes and she's like, oh, my dad's a pecker too. And I'm like, what? This one is from a possible client we've been working on for like 3 years. We're really in awe and respect your team, but we think it better to work with someone we don't know. One I didn't put up there, we just got the other day, is, yeah, we really like your work, but you're too creative. Glad you're not hiring us. Thank you. We do that just to kind of let that energy out, right? But also to share with you that, hey, you're not crazy. These things really happen. But again, it's how you follow up with them, how you manage them, what you do to fix it in the future is really huge. This is what I call the kids' table, and this isn't much of an issue as it used to be. I used to come to this conference and AIJ and other conferences, and you would hear time and time again, people wanted to get respect and kind of be in the position of influencing the direction of the company. I think that's more of a thing now. I really do. I believe branding, design, UX, UI, all that sort of thing, design thinking, it's really shifting. But it still happens. And sitting at the kids' tables when you're doing all these incredible projects for the company and people are giving comments without even really understanding what's happening, right? And so, you know, it's the concept, you know, are you the decision maker? We always ask that. And, of course, they always say yes. Then we wait for it, and then there's usually a but. But I got to show, like, 20 people. So you're not a decision maker, right? And I think it's just important to know that up front, because one of the things that we talk about all the time, and this is the exact terminology we use, is what are you committed to, all right? What storyline are you committed to? Are you committed to that always happening? I'll give you an example. Make-A-Wish Foundation. Loved it, right? We ended up getting the job, super excited. We found out that it was going to be literally like 10 or 20 layers of approval. Ugh. Right? Not ideal. But we so wanted to work with them that we sat as a team and figured out how are we going to manage this. And you know what? It was a year-long project that was one of my favorite of my life. We have a great relationship with them. And it was all because of the way we approached the project. Right? It's the posture that you take. I can't stress that enough. You might say that's not that easy. It really is. It really is that easy because it keeps you in check. Doesn't mean I didn't have designers crying sometimes. It happened, right? Doesn't mean we didn't agree with everything. There's a lot of stuff we would have done different. But we talked it out. We had a conversation, and it was awesome. Another scenario is what we call the three amigos. This is one that my team really gets frustrated about, and that is this. How many of you have spec'd a print project, and what you get back from the printer, it's not what you spec'd? Anyone? Yeah, it's crazy. That happened to us once. And I was so infuriated and so like, how does that happen, right? Because I felt the printer had taken advantage of the client. The client doesn't know the difference between paper or the difference between digital or offset, whatever else, right? So now we spend a ton of time making sure that the concept of the fact that you're only as good as a team as your weakest member, right? So if you want to do beautiful work and you want something, I'm just using print because it's the easiest example, and you want your piece to turn out the way you want it, then why wouldn't you have the printer a part of the project, right? Talk to them right away. Some of you probably already do this. But, you know, talk about dummies, talk about efficiencies, talk about new technology you've never done. Have them a part of it. Because ultimately, if the goal is, as a service organization, we want to do a great, amazing thing in the end, then have everyone included. It really is a team thing. And again, that's a perspective thing. That's a process thing. We don't look at vendors as vendors. We look at them as part of our team. We're an extension of their team. They're an extension of our team. Now, I know sometimes it's challenging. I'm not saying it's that easy. But if you go into that posture, things tend to turn out the way you hope for. So the reality is a lot of things I'm talking about, you did not go to school for this stuff, right? And I think that Sometime today you'll probably hear, or this week you'll hear this phrase here. Man, I just faked it till I made it. Look what I did. But you know what we don't talk about? Is what happens if you don't make it, right? And I think it's important to realize that I'm all about taking risk. I'm all about doing stuff bigger than you, right? But I also think that you should do a couple key things when you're approaching this. And the first one, just really, start with keeping it real. What are you really good at? What is your team good at? Get as good as you can at that first, right? Really own that. And understand that space, so if you start trying different things, right, it's somehow an extension of that. I think that's important. I think in this room right now and at this conference are people that could be advisors or peer groups for you, right? No matter where you are in your career, create a little tribe who know your business, bless you, right? Because you know how crazy the design business is. Not everyone understands what we do or coding or whatever it is that you do. Get friends to do that, right? Create a Slack channel that you share maybe struggles. AIJ is brilliant for that. Most of the people that I know in this room are good friends from AIJ. I call them all the time about how do you do a contract, how do you do this, how do you do that, for the last 18 years. Or have an advisor group. Get people that you really respect that know you and go to them with your things. All these client perspectives, that one conversation we had where my client called my client a dick, we had a talk with my advisors. How should you handle that? How should I handle that, right? It's important to do that. Be a student, not in the normal sense. Be a student of yourself. Make sure you know how you like to receive information. Be honest with what you're not good at. Are you a hothead? Right? Are you an introvert? Extrovert? Whatever. Get to know you. Be a student of yourself. Because oftentimes the only thing you control is how you deal in this situation, right? How you respond, how you take information in. It's so incredibly valuable. Awesome, and this isn't contradicting to the keep it real thing, but also try new things in the sense of, I heard last week in New York that in the last 5 years, there's been more change in the creative industry than there has the previous 100 combined. For a guy who's mid-career or probably later, that's exciting and terrifying, right? So I got to be open to new things if I want to stay in this profession I love. So I'll close with this, just a couple thoughts and remedies for some of the things that we talked about today. And that's this. Honesty saves everyone time. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with the people you work with, right? Save time. Be transparent. Be open. Next, vast majority of the stuff we talked about can be taken care of with process. Over and over again. You set a process. We look at our processes once a quarter. See if we can make advance. See if we can make them better, tweak them, whatever. Also, be confident. Know that what you do is valuable, guys. Okay? You're designers. You're creatives because that's the way you were born. It's awesome. Be confident that it's valuable. And also, respect that. Respect the fact that you do this, but also respect the fact that you have a job because you get to work for a certain customer, certain clients, right? Respect them. Appreciate that. Without them, you're not designing. I'm a podcast nerd, so if you have work-life stuff, Adam Grant's podcast just came out. He's an organizational psychologist, and his whole theme is how to make work suck less. So if you want to know that, listen to that podcast. He's really great. And if you just want something to make you feel happy, this is Love Podcast I'm listening to right now. It's just awesome. It's about human connection, human experience. I'm a crier. It might make you cry. So if you macho dudes don't want to do that, then just do it on the drive home, right? No one will know. But hey, seriously, if we have any time for a few questions, I'd love to take them. But I appreciate you guys. Cheers, and thank you for listening. Anyone going to be brave? Yes, ma'am. Question is, how do you motivate your team to do that list that sucks your soul? Yeah. Those are my words. Yeah. I think it's the posture, it's reality. So do I love PowerPoint? Do I get up in the morning and be like, yeah. No, of course I don't. But it's the currency that it's the vehicle, the communication vehicle that our bigger clients use. And so we're of the mindset if we can crush that and really service them in that, then the other projects that we really want would have naturally go to us, right? And I would say that works the majority of the time. But I would just tell you, last week I had someone break down and be like, I don't want to do another one, right? And so we had a conversation about it. I'm like, I get it, right? And so we kind of shifted around in the studio. But yeah, there's moments. I mean, I'm not patronizing her emotions, but part of me was just like, it's only a 3-page PowerPoint. Probably could knock this out and get on with the world, but there was something bigger, right? She just was tired, and she wanted to do some other stuff, and so that's what we did. Good question. Who else would be brave? Come on. Yes, ma'am. How do you get people to follow a process you develop? Do you have buy-in from management? Okay. Do you have sort of like a weight system or an award system or some way to track whether or not people are doing it? Yeah. I think, first of all, culture, you have to figure out what really motivates your team, right? It is always needs to be bought in from the higher-ups, right? That's really important. Otherwise, it doesn't have any weight behind it. And if you can get them to even present that as something that's part of their job requirement and kind of share that story, that's really huge. If you've never had that, culture is like a barge, right? It just turns really slow. So be patient, but you can't expect someone to follow something right off the bat for the first time over and over again if they're not used to it and they don't understand why. Feel tension to do it, good tension. Yes, ma'am. How did I shift to working for other people to my own business? That was easy. It was a party. No, I'm kidding. I fell into being an entrepreneur on accident. When I got out of school, I was not really that good. My portfolio was terrible. In fact, I used to give a talk where I'd show my college portfolio and then my first year out of school, and you'd be like, that is no way the same person. It's embarrassing and great at the same time. But I just started taking freelance on the side because I wanted to get better. And then all of a sudden I was staying up 4, 5, 6 hours at night doing work that I really was passionate and loved. And I just kind of fell into it that way. And the first 2 times I went on my own, I failed. And I kept going back, trying different things. And I finally realized, some of the stuff I talked about, process, perspective, culture, those things really are what needed to be established. Someone asked a question. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about posture and how you respond? Can you talk a little bit about the journey to getting to this place?
Yes, the question is, how did you get to the point where you could have the patience perhaps to have a good posture or to be ready to have the filter to not lose your crap on certain times? Yeah. Again, my words, not his, my words, yeah. Technical therapy words. Well, the first answer is a lot of trial and error, right? But I think we do something that really helps. We have, it's probably a bad name, but we have post-ops. So when we have a job that's really, really good and a job that's really, really bad, we take the time to say, hey, what did we do here that was really great, right? That's kind of the positive psychology spin on it, right? What did we do? What can we do? What can we replicate? What can we do even better? What could we make that the best job possible? And what do we do here? So when we did that furniture one, we sat and thought about, actually went through emails. We just took an hour and everyone had a different responsibility to figure it out. And we said, okay, what could we have done better? And what we realized in that situation, by the way, is that a lot of the issue was us, the way we were talking. Like you read emails sometimes back, sounded like assholes, right? But I didn't feel that way at the time. I felt kind of righteous, like, well, you weren't here, And so I think that was, you take the time to do it and just analyze it, right? That's how we did it. And then we also I just interviewed my top 12 clients and asked them, what is it about us that you really like? Why don't you use other firms? And what is it about us that you wish were present, that we had to offer for you? And the one thing they all said, which is, I think is a win, is they all said, we just love working with you guys because you're good people. We feel that you listen. And that was awesome. So some part of our process and our culture is working, but it's because we are purposeful about it. You can't just do it and say, next time someone does that, I'm not going to lose my mind. I'm going to be cool. That may happen once, but are you going to do it over and over again? So you have to create sort of moments where you either singularly or as a team sit down and say, what can I do to be better? And support each other on that. And that's why you do the success part too. You really want to reward that moment. Like, hey, good job, man. That was awesome. You know, you're going on vacation and you sent them all this email telling them what was going on, even though you didn't have to. They felt seen, right? And they're paying you money to do what you love. So have a conversation, communicate with them. Yes, ma'am.
Going off of what you just said, would you recommend a similar tactic, or would you have different advice for those of us who freelance?
The question is, how do you handle that same situation when you freelance? Fair? Okay. In the sense of how you are prepared for bad feedback or hard feedback, or?
I'm thinking more like where you don't have a team to reflect with.
Yeah.
You don't always know you're being an
Great. So the question is, how do you do that if you don't have someone to talk to, right? You don't have a team or whatever because you're a freelancer. Well, I think if it's possible, that's when I was talking about the AIJ example or other freelancers. You can do it on Slack. You can do video chat. Like I used to have people say, oh, I can't do that. You can. There are people in this room, right? And there's technology now that you can say, guys, I need 5 minutes, right? We have a thing at work where we'll call a timeout and we'll just talk about this moment. Everyone has to kind of all hands on deck if you can, and we'll like talk about it. Maybe you can use Slack that way or video chat that way and say, hey, here's the situation, right? Am I off here? You know? I always want to start with us first. Because I think oftentimes when you just focus on the client, all this other crap comes out, right? Because maybe it is a tough client. And so you spend 20 minutes bitching about the way this client is, and you never kind of get back to the fact, how could I handle it better? So that's how I would do that. Yes, ma'am. How do you create boundaries and have your client respect them, just in whatever situation? Time, budget, deadline, all that sort of thing. Is this a client you have to work with? It's a trick question. You know, I think the reality is you do the best you can up front. You lay the groundwork and you repeat it over and over. When I talked about honesty saves time, who wants to have that conversation that the fact that what you just did to scope creep that, although it might take you, bless you, it might take you 10 minutes, is valuable, right? No one does. But if you don't, then they're going to keep asking. So who's the problem in that situation? I am if I don't say anything, right? And so it's really important for you to create process, listen, and figure out where you need to push, reinforce, and just keep doing it, right? It's not going to happen overnight. And you know what? You could have all the greatest process in the world, and you still might work with a jackass, and it still is hard, right? And I'm saying that for dramatic effect, but sometimes we have to fire clients, right? Like we have a client right now I love. And we are just not hitting it on the process. They want us to follow the process, and for some reason, we're just not doing it right. And I just realized just the other day, preparing for this talk, that the problem in this scenario is us, because we have our own process, and we're not adjusting it for theirs. And so I need to make sure I apologize and be like, hey, here's what we're doing wrong. I'm sorry, but we're going to start doing it this way. Does that work, right? So I think you just got to take time to look at it. Yes, ma'am. Is it easier to uphold a process in-house versus in an agency? I think they're both hard. I mean, I don't know if I designate one over the other. I don't know what that sign says, dude. I'm over? No? Okay. It is time? What's that? Oh, okay. I love you too. A selfie later, me and you. To answer your question, I know I have one over here, but I don't think it matters, because some in-house cultures are really awesome, some are really hard, some don't respect, some it's departmental, like sometimes political warfare, right? Agencies are used to doing a certain culture. I don't think there's a delineation between one being easier or harder. I think process, procedure, all that sort of thing, often as creative creatures, we want it, but we say we don't want it, but we need it, right? So it's important. I have time for one more question, I just said. Yes, ma'am. You're going to speak loud. Oh. Thanks, guys, for coming. You know, this is going to sound really trite, but it comes down to the honesty quotient. And you have to understand what motivates your boss. Is it money? Is it quality? Right? There's data there somewhere, right? So if it's money, you can say, very respectfully, we are not as profitable because you are a freaking bottleneck, right? Wouldn't say the freaking part, but you know what I'm saying? Or if you want to have us more time or show more directions or dig more research-wise or, you know, whatever, we need your input. We need your go-ahead. And I can't do that without you present. That may help. It's hard when you're talking up the ladder, I know. But oftentimes, if you show them statistics and data that matter to them, right, that will tend to shift a little bit. All right, hopefully I'm not in trouble, guys. Thank you so much.